All right, time for another book review, and I have not done one of these in a long while. This book today is The $1 Billion Secret by Raphael Badziag, and I've included in the description a link to the book, Raphael's page, and Raphael's TED Talk. Now, it's not too different from a lot of other books on entrepreneurship, business, and personal development. The 80-20 of the book, I would say you'll find in chapters 6 and 7, titled respectively, The 6 Skills of Business Mastery and The 6 Habits of Wealth. Now, on the 6 skills of business mastery, 5 out of the 6, not surprisingly, are people skills. And on the 6 habits of wealth, shouldn't be too much of a surprise there from what you may have read in other books, like let's say the Miracle Morning, and especially the Miracle Morning for Millionaires. Get up early, exercise, read, work on yourself, work on the whole person, and constantly be working on your craft, on your skill, on whatever service you're delivering to your audience. The part of the book that I like the most I found in the beginning with the story of Infosys and its founder, Narayana Murthy. I'm not sure how to pronounce that. Narayana Murthy, or Narayana Murthy. Just call him Narayana. He was born in 1946 in India, and by age 35 in 1981, he and a group of several partners decided to found Infosys, a software company. Now get this, he founded it without a computer. So he founded a computer company without a computer, and it took 3 years to finally get a computer. Back in India, around that time, you needed a license to own a computer. And it took him 3 years of traveling from Bangalore to Delhi to get that license. And the distance between those two cities is 1,500 miles. Now, he couldn't afford an airplane, so what he did instead was he took the train. And it took 2 days by train to get from Bangalore to India. 2 days one way, and of course 2 days back. And he had to do this 50 times over a 3-year period, fighting the bureaucracy. So since it's 4 days round trip, and those were 50 different times he had to ride back and forth, that's 200 days spent just in a train between India and Bangalore over that 3-year period. This guy was dedicated. Now, what about doing actual computer work in the meantime during those 3 years? Well, this is also interesting. Since they didn't have a computer, but they were a computer company, Infosys sent a team of its co-founders, about 6 of them, to America, where they had found a customer who was willing to lend a computer to them. And while Narayana stayed back in India, scurrying away the license. All right, so what about communicating? Well, right back then, around the time that Narayana was starting his company, it took about 5 to 7 years on average to get a phone line in India, with priority going to retired government officials, and it took him, luckily, just 1 year of struggling. And when Infosys finally did get a phone line, it took, I don't know. A lot of the time it was busy. The signal, a lot of time there was no signal. In fact, it says most of the time there was no signal. And when there was a signal, it was frequently busy. So, but the year before that, if he needed to make phone calls to America, it was one way. He would call customers and, of course, the co-founders over there, and he would do so from a public library using a public phone. Now, if they needed to get a hold of him, they just couldn't. So what about sending code from America back to India? This was before the internet. It couldn't just be emailed or sent electronically. So sending the actual hard copies of code would have taken about 3 weeks by mail. So what he did instead was he faxed it. His Infosys faxed it. But that, of course, presented problems And of course, that probably also made a great story. And there were many more. There were many more hurdles, but his dedication over those years, it paid off. He himself became a multi-billionaire, and he created billionaires in the process, and many millionaires also along the way. Like 6 of his co-founders became billionaires, and 4,000 of his employees into millionaires. So, anyway, it starts out with the awesome rags to riches story. That's one out of like a handful of rags to riches stories. I would recommend it. It's a good book. Give it a go. Oops,